Hello, everyone. I'm Claire Davis, and I'm back with Mental Health Chats. And I'm here starting the topic on anxiety. And today we have Tricia Maitland. Hello, Tricia. How are you
Hi,
going?
I'm really great, Claire. Thanks so much for having me on your mental health chats talk. I'm really excited to be talking about this topic today. It's one of my favourite topics.
Brilliant. And Tricia is going to be talking about what anxiety feels like. And you may have noticed already, we've got very similar accents. Tricia's actually from a suburb near where I grew up. She grew up very close to me in Sydney, and she now lives in Bath. So we're both now living in the West Country. I find it quite humorous when I meet people from similar areas to me, and then they've moved over to similar places. So, Tricia, I'm really interested in you telling everyone what you do. So can you explain what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist and coach. And so what that means is that I use the power of hypnotherapy as well as solution-focused therapy to help my clients reduce their anxiety, improve their sleep, grow their confidence, motivation, whatever else they need help with that's causing them issues. And so what that means in terms of what I do with my therapy is that it's not about focusing on problems or the past. It's very much around helping my clients to build a really positive view of their future, how they want their future to be like, and helping them break that down into small achievable steps so they can work towards it, as well as helping them to reduce their stress so that they can get into the positive, powerful part of their mind and they can make change in a really quick, powerful way. So I love the kind of therapy I do. I love seeing the results. I love seeing people get better. It's really inspiring. So yeah, that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. And like I said, I see people for lots of different reasons. I also help people get rid of phobias and stop smoking. But a big part of the clients that I see, they have issues with anxiety.
Yeah.
And that manifests in so many different ways, whether it's not sleeping, eating, drinking too much, procrastinating, negative thoughts whirring around. Lots of clients say they just don't feel themselves anymore. So there's lots of ways that it manifests, but often a root issue is that sort of anxiety.
Wow. So out of interest, why are you so passionate about what you do?
I think I'm passionate. Well, I've always wanted to help people. And so that kind of, from the very beginning. And so I studied psychology at uni, wanting to kind of help people. But then after 15 years of school, I just thought I need to get a job. So I got a job in HR and as a way to help people in the corporate world, but always was really interested in different healing modalities and studied, reflexology and massage and Reiki and other different healing ways of healing, but never found the thing that I wanted. But I'm always really passionate about helping people. And I'm also passionate about it because I'm more at the anxious end of the spectrum myself. And so I know what it's like. I've been there when I'm sitting opposite my clients, I'm like, I totally can relate to you because that was me. I sort of suffered from anxiety that kind of built up over a number of years. And I kind of think if I knew then what I know now, I could have helped me back then a few years ago. So that's also why I'm quite passionate, because I understand how it can affect your life. But then I also understand how you can help yourself be free of it and get better as well.
Brilliant. So out of interest, why do people get anxious?
I think it can be, there's a number of factors, human beings, where this whole being, and there's lots of different things that affect us. One's obviously some people are just more inclined to be anxious than others. I think people who can be more emotional, which I'm a bit more like this, and my husband's like this. So, so I think some people are naturally that way. I think also it's about, the things that happen to us in our lives. So certain life issues, things that happen to us could be more stressful than others if we're going through a difficult time, people passing away, losing jobs, changing relationships. There's lots of different, reasons why that could also be the case. Also, it could be something that we've learnt. So if a parent or someone behaves in that way, we see that as a normal way of going about life. So there's lots of different reasons why we can be anxious. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got something to show us there about the human brain, don't you? So do you
Oh,
want to
yes.
explain it?
Thank you for reminding me. I was getting so excited what I was saying. Yeah, so basically, this is what I share with my clients when we have an initial consultation or when we do revision, just to explain from a neuroscience perspective what's happening in the brain. So I'll just share my screen now. Okay, you can see that?
Yep.
Great. So, in terms of why we get anxious, so when we think about it from a neuroscience perspective, although we have one brain, we have two minds. Now, our first mind is our intellectual mind, which relates to our left prefrontal cortex, which is very much the most recently evolved part of the brain, and it's a part that humans use the most. And when we operate from this part of the brain, we're generally getting things right in life because it's wise, it's positive, it's resilient, it's solution focused. So this is obviously where we want to be operating from, because whether life's going well or whether we're having issues, this is where we want to be making decisions from. This is where we want to be sort of thinking about. This is where we want to be. But there's also this other part of our brain, this other mind that we have called our primitive mind. And as the name implies, it's a much older part of our brain. And this is, our limbic system. And it's where our fight, flight or freeze response originates from. And so this part of our brain, it's necessary. It did its job back in the day as well. It's there for our survival. But the trouble is when we spend too much time in this part of our brain, it's always negative. It's obsessive. So there's always obsessive thoughts or behaviors. It's vigilant because it's always looking for dangers. And it's not an intellect, so it's not smart. So it very much does the same thing over and over again. So what happens? So our primitive mind's there for our survival. If we come across that wild tiger in the jungle that wants to eat us, or if we come across that enemy tribesman that wants to steal our food, we want to go into that fight, flight or response so that we can get stronger, so that we can get faster, so that we can run away or hide or fight the stressor that's coming for us. But the trouble is it operates just the same in our modern lives. So for us, what happens to us is that the things that might happen to us, so whether we have this long to-do list that we don't know if we're going to get on top of, whether it's bills we can't pay, whether it's an argument we've had with someone, whether it's at the moment, issues with coronavirus, people's businesses, stresses of Christmas, whatever it might be, our primitive mind sees those stresses in exactly the same way. So it sees them as like that wild tiger that's coming to eat them. And what that means is that our cortisol and stress levels go up. We move into our primitive mind much more. We go into that fight, flight or freeze response, but we can't run away from those stresses. We still have bills to pay. We still have the to-do list. We still have that person we've had a fight with that we want to, still need to talk to. And so for us, over a period of time, that fight, flight or freeze response translates to anger, anxiety or depression, or a combination of all three. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an overnight thing. This can be over days, weeks, months, years. We are increasing our anxiety, and that's when we start to see problems. That's when we start to see people not sleeping well, feeling angry all the time and snapping, not being able to concentrate, perhaps eating and drinking too much, having bad habits like surfing the net or sitting on the couch when they should be going out, withdrawing and having duvet days rather than facing what's on their plate. So it can manifest, phobias that could develop overnight. It can manifest in lots of different ways. And that's obviously when people come and see me. But as I said, it could be building up over a long period of time and people don't realize it because they get used to it until it reaches crisis point. But that's just sort of it in a nutshell and what I explain to my clients.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for explaining that to us, Tricia. So can you explain to us now, what can people do to reduce their anxiety?
Absolutely. So the first thing I always talk about, because I think it's the most important, is sleep. Now, what I find is I'd have to say 80 to 85% of my clients have problems with their sleep. And so when they start to sleep better, they start to feel better. When they start to feel better, they sleep better. I'm not quite sure, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. But one of the things I get my clients all to do is to listen to, if they have trouble with their sleep, especially listening to a guided meditation as they're drifting off to sleep. And most of my clients start to find that they start sleeping better. So I think sleep is really, really important. And the other thing is that often we try to, I think it's a bit like dieting. People try and look for some quick fix, special diet to fix them. But actually, if we focus on the foundation elements and we work on those, and what I mean by that is it's things like having a routine, particularly in the morning and the evening routine. It's exercising, it's getting outside, it's having those positive interactions, it's having a purpose, whatever that means for you. When we do those things, we start to feel better. I see it all the time in my practice with my clients. And so I think it's not the whizzy big things, it's the day-to-day, the ordinary day-to-day things that actually the things can make a massive, massive difference. So definitely looking at those things. The other thing, particularly because our thoughts are really key in terms of anxiety, because it's not what happens to us that counts. It's how we feel about them, how we respond to them. And we know this because not everyone's afraid of flying. Not everyone's afraid of spiders. Some people love public speaking. I know, Claire, you're really good at it. Some people can't stand it. So, we're all different in how we respond to different things in our lives. So we know it's what we think that counts. And what I find is that often my clients, they obviously get into a negative spiral. And so it's about getting out of that. And I think I just hold up your book here because I think, this is a really great practical guide. A lot of these, these things in here can help people reduce their anxiety. But you mentioned about gratitude there. And I think that's really, really important. And I talk to my clients about that. And you mentioned the Emmons Institute, and I do as well. We know that people who, it's scientifically proven that people who keep a gratitude journal, not daily, it can be weekly, after a few months, they start to feel happier, they report less physical issues, they exercise more regularly, they work towards their goals, and they're much more altruistic and empathetic to others. So keeping a gratitude journal can really, really help. And it can be really hard, particularly if you're going through difficult times, and people, are at the moment. But really doing that, I've seen massive changes. I even got my husband doing it. Every morning he writes in his gratitude journal, and he's noticed a big difference for himself as well. So I think that is a really, really powerful thing. And the other thing is, speaking to someone. So I think when you're struggling, I certainly felt this way as well. You feel like a bit of a failure. But actually, if you reach out and you speak to someone, if you can't afford to see a therapist or a hypnotherapist, even speaking to someone about how you're feeling can help. Because often when we're stressed, it swirls around in our head. But when we verbalize it, we can start to, feel better and look for changes. So whether that's a friend or someone, that you can pick up the phone to, I think that's really, really important to just say if you're struggling, because I think we'd be surprised that probably more people than we think have gone through challenging times. So I think people can be very understanding. So that's what I would do. And don't wait until it gets really bad, be aware of yourself and how you're feeling. Again, you kind of get used to it. Like I sort of got, anxious over time and, developed a fear of getting in a lift and, other things. And I just thought that was normal, but actually they're signs of anxiety. So, being aware of it so that you can address it before it gets kind of critical is something else I'd recommend.
Thank you so much, Tricia. They're brilliant tips there. And thank you for referring to my book as well, because it's all about working on our emotional fitness every day. It's not something that comes naturally to people. So Tricia is amazing. She does work online as well as face-to-face. So if you want to contact Tricia, you can via LinkedIn. And would you like to also tell people about your YouTube channel and your guided meditations?
Yes, absolutely. So I've sort of just started my YouTube channel. It's focusing in the areas, as I said, of anxiety, sleep, confidence, and motivation. So they're short videos just to help you in different ways, and just different interesting topics. So I'm releasing one every week. And as I said, I've just started. So just go on to my channel and hopefully you get some tips. I did one on, say, 9 ways to reduce your anxiety, and I got some really great feedback about that. It's called Tricia Maitland Talks. And so I'll give you the link and that you can share, and hopefully you'll find those videos useful and enjoyable. And also my guided meditation, I'll provide a link. You just need to put in your details and you'll be sent a link to download that. It's my most recent one, where you get to go to a lovely forest and let your cares drift away and go into a magical cave. It's really relaxing. And if you're feeling anxious, listening to that every day, whether it's when you drift off to sleep or another time, I can guarantee you will make you feel better. It does. Every single client who does it regularly, I listen to it. I listen to myself every night as I drift off to sleep. You know, I'm sure my husband's like, oh my God, I have to listen to it going to sleep as well. But no, but I listen to it as I drift off to sleep. And I tell you, if I don't listen to it, I definitely notice a difference. So I'll provide the link to that as well.
Thank you. They're fantastic tips, and it's really good to have something that people can access really easily. So those links will be in the comments. Mm-hmm. We are continuing the topic of anxiety, and our next guest is a fellow called Tommy Dahlberg, who is going to be talking about how he overcame anxiety when he had anxiety as a student. And Tommy is from America. So we've got guests from all over the world. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all your tips, Tricia. They are absolutely brilliant, font of information, and take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.